Hi there, Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 261 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, please leave your question in the comment section of this video, and hopefully you will be featured next week. Also, if you happen to enjoy the video, hit the like button down below, subscribe if you are new. And with all that being said, before we get on to this week's questions, I just wanted to make you aware of an awesome giveaway that I'm doing. I'm going to be giving away this very tough to find Darth Revan. I'm also going to be including this Imperial Snowtrooper, good army builder that one, and also this deluxe Jango Fett, and also to throw in with those three items, I'm going to be adding these awesome vintage collection cards that were produced by Star Action Figures and Mr. Stormtrooper Davis. That is the whole set of 1 to 9. And here are details of that giveaway. I have partnered with Whatnot, which, if you have not heard of them before, is an online platform stroke app where you can buy or sell all sorts of collectibles, from action figures, Lego, to Funko Pops and Pokemon cards. It really is a fun way to buy your favorite collectibles, as sellers are running live streams all of the time. It's also super easy to use, and as you can see, here is me buying a Darth Maul speeder for a very good price. I have my own storefront with some items that I am selling, so be sure to check that out. But there are also loads of sellers on there selling in live stream auctions or just straight buy it now listings. Whatnot has sellers from all over, so whether you're in the US or the UK, I'm sure you will be able to find something you will like. Now, to enter my giveaway, all you need to do is sign up to Whatnot via the link in the description or the pinned comment. And I've also provided a QR code for you to scan if you want to do that. And then post your Whatnot username in the comments of this video. That is all you need to do. But that is not all. When you sign up, you will automatically be given $15 or £10 to use on your first purchase. Now, you don't have to buy something from my listings. You can use it to buy anything on the platform, whether you use it to buy something small or put it towards a larger item. It's so easy to use the app. Follow your favorite sellers, join in their live stream auctions, or just buy a listed item. And that's it. Sign up via my link, post your Whatnot username in the comment section of this video, and you will be in the chance of winning the Darth Revan, the Snowtrooper, the Jango Fett, and those awesome cards as an extra throw-in. But also at the same time, enjoy the $15 or £10 to buy something you like. On this particular giveaway, I am happy to post anywhere in the world, and will be drawing the winner on Saturday the 24th of May, the winner being announced on the Sunday the 25th on my Ask Boss Bounty Sunday video and via my social media channels. So there you go then, guys. That's Whatnot. Really fun way to buy your collectibles. As I mentioned, more and more sellers are putting vintage collection Black Series items on there every single day, and be sure to enter the giveaway and make use of the £10 or $15 credit by using my link. All right then, with that being said, let's get on to the first question, and it's from S Manigal, and it says, hello BB, long time listener but first time asking a question, so here it goes. Question for next week: do you have any insight why Hasbro seems to have migrated to the special action figure set 3-packs, or in this case the Shriek Hawk 4-pack, instead of the 2-packs where we got a Sabine and a Chopper, Vader and Obi-Wan, Wicket and Nisa, and Revan and HK-47? I personally love the 2-packs. They give us figures we wouldn't otherwise get, carded and unpunched, and Hasbro gets to charge more than normal retail. So I don't necessarily think that they've migrated to the special action figure 3-packs or 4-packs. Those have always been a thing. The 2-packs was kind of a new concept, and I'm almost certain that they haven't sort of parked that forever. I just feel that certain releases require certain packaging, whether it's a 3-pack, whether they want to do them carded, whether it's 2 figures that naturally go together, like that Vader and Obi-Wan showdown. That was the perfect 2-pack, wasn't it? And I personally feel that we probably haven't seen the last of those. It's just they're trying to sort of diversify their offering, basically giving us collectors a range of things to collect, whether it be the loose 3-packs, the carded 3 and 4 packs, or, as you say, those awesome 2-packs. I'm sure they'll do some more in the future. Meter86 says, hey man, hope you're well and enjoying the sunshine. 2 questions for this week, if you'll indulge me. What do you think stops Hasbro from releasing a generic Stormtrooper 4-pack? Don't they want my money, or would they prefer I paid for separate card backs? And 2, do you find reviewing figures from content you haven't seen engaged with a little tricky? I wouldn't know the first thing to say about a character from Jedi Survivor. I stopped playing consoles a long time ago due to gamer rage. So in terms of your first question, the generic Stormtrooper 4-pack, they did do one of those, didn't they? It was like those Rogue One Stormtroopers, VC140, I think it was, with the sort of bell-bottom armor on the ankles, and I don't think they had rocker ankles either. So they have done that before. Unfortunately, that 4-pack was pretty hard to get hold of, and yeah, it is a mystery why, because that was a pretty good seller as far as I'm aware. It sold out pretty quickly. Why they haven't sort of done another Stormtrooper pack with the A New Hope Stormtrooper rather than releasing them on that card back, it kind of makes sense. I guess they want those carded collectors to buy it too, is probably the answer. And in terms of your other question, reviewing figures that I may not be overly interested in terms of the media, I guess it is a little bit tricky in terms of talking about what that media is, but what I tend to do in those cases is focus more on the figure itself and the quality and, you know, the paint applications, articulation, all of that kind of thing. And I have reviewed a lot of figures over the last week. You may have noticed on the channel, lots of things have been dropping all at once, and it won't stop there either. I still have Balan Skull to review, and I still have that Book of Boba Fett Droids 4-pack from the Disney store. So be sure to check out the channel in the coming days this week to see those reviews. Mike Z says, hey Tim, love your videos. First ever question for next week. What do you think about a Star Destroyer as a potential HasLab? I feel like the Death Star just might not be economically feasible, but a Star Destroyer where one side opens up like the sail barge might be more possible. It could have a bridge, detention center, crew quarters, meeting room, etc. While it obviously couldn't be true to scale, I feel that would be a great addition to TVC. I mean, it's certainly an idea, but I do feel with the Star Destroyer that it would have to work kind of like the Lego ones do, in the fact that it would have to be like a top open, a bit like the Ghost, basically, because it's quite a flat vehicle, isn't it? It's not like the barge where you've got big side panels. I can't really envisage how that would open up from the side necessarily, but I still do feel that that would be too big. I feel that it would have to be a lot bigger than the barge. And, you know, as you say about the Death Star being economically viable, I feel that the Star Destroyer would be in that category as well. But it's a cool thing to envisage for sure. Resistance X-Wing Pilot says, hey Bossk, enjoyed the episode. I just picked up the TVC tank driver at a toy show today, and it's kind of revitalized my interest in TVC. The tank commander is super expensive on the aftermarket though. What do you think the chances are of a reissue? Maybe for Rogue One's 10th anniversary next year. TVC unfortunately doesn't seem big on movie anniversaries, but hopefully we see something then, as well as for Revenge of the Sith and Force Awakens this year. Well, in terms of the tank driver and tank commander, I have the tank driver there. I do believe that the tank driver was part of that poll a few years ago that the Republic Commando won. I think they put out a bunch of figures that we could vote on for being reissued, and the Imperial tank driver was definitely one of those. It didn't win, obviously, but I feel that that figure and the commander are ripe for reissue whenever they want to revisit Rogue One. The figure's hips are a little bit of an issue. They've always been a bit clunky, but the figure itself is a great figure, and the commander, as you mentioned, is really expensive on the secondary market. It's one of those ones that was maybe in a short run with TVC, and yeah, it's definitely expensive on the secondary market. And as I said, both of those are ripe for reissue. Hasbro's even thought about it before by having that one in the poll. So, you know, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we saw reissues of those in the future. But as we've seen with reissues recently, maybe we'll get different card backs for them. David Stevens says, hiya Tim, love to you and the family. Question for next week. With regard to the original Kenner 96, do you think that Hasbro will re-release figures such as Hammerhead on normal size cards with fewer accessories, perhaps to appease collectors who want uniformity in their collection? So this has already happened in between the previous episode and this episode. They announced that Cantina Adventure set, which does include Hammerhead, albeit he is in his blue spandex outfit that was used for the original Kenner version. So will we get that actual Hammerhead that's on that bigger card on a normal size card? I've got to say, at this moment in time, I doubt it. I think they're probably appeasing the original 96 fans with that blue version, because ultimately they still need to differentiate between a deluxe and a standard figure, and they really haven't decided how they're going to do that. But hopefully, maybe one day in the future, if they do like a Cantina 4-pack or something like that, and they want to get Hammerhead back out there, maybe they can stick him on a standard sized card, but I can't see it happening sort of outside one of those sets, if I'm honest. John Rosom says, hi Tim, thanks as always. Question for next week: if when Hasbro completes the 96, will you put up another display case like the one you have for your Kenner figures to display them? With that in mind, is it something you've already have in mind, and have you been acquiring extra figures of TVC 96 in order to fill it? So yeah, he's talking about the cabinet that's back there that holds my original 96 Kenner figures. So it is something that I've thought about, and that's because a good friend of mine, Gary Moore, has actually done it. He has 2 of those cases, and he's populated one with the Kenner figures and one with TVC figures. And I think for the figures that Hasbro haven't released in the vintage collection, he uses placeholders from previous lines. I don't know, the Legacy Collection Rancor Keeper, for example, and maybe some of the other Ewoks as well. Until Hasbro release those in the vintage collection, he uses those. So it is definitely an idea, and quite honestly, if Hasbro already had the original 96 in super articulated form, I would most definitely want another one of those cabinets, because I think that's a pretty cool idea and it would look good together. And I've seen Gary's and it does look good. Tyler Vargas says, to me, I think Hasbro should make an Imperial Royal Red Guard Army Builder pack with all new tooling and cool weapons, since the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi is over and didn't get any Rebel Commandos in the vintage collection line. Maybe in the future we will get an all new Imperial Royal Red Guard Army Builder. What are your thoughts, Bossk? So I've got to be honest, with the current figure that we have, for my purposes and what I use that figure for, it's absolutely fine. I have them displayed as Royal Guards and not as their secondary sort of character that you can change them into with the different armor and things like that. And therefore they kind of just stand there. They don't really need, you know, really good articulation. Having said that, if they were ever to re-release the Royal Guard, which they have done before on a card back in one of those Army Builder 4-packs, I would definitely want them to update the articulation, of course, because I think we should always be doing that. Having said that, you know, the figure that we've got at this moment in time, I think it's quite far down the list in the things that we need in the vintage collection. But, you know, that's just my opinion. As you say, you want one of those, and that's completely fine. It's the Nat Man says, another great video. Boss question for next week: have you ever been tempted to buy figures in any other scales like the Black Series? The new Visions 2-pack with the Ronin and the oddly mislabeled B556 is incredibly tempting, as I doubt we'll get that droid. And with the Revenge of the Sith R2-D2 being my first Star Wars action figure, the Black Series version is seriously calling to me, even if it doesn't have the same massive claw of the original. So have you ever been tempted by any non 3.75 inch releases? Well, yeah, absolutely. Before the vintage collection came back, I was one of those people having to buy the Black Series because that's where the quality figures were being released. And I even used to review them on the channel to try and, you know, grow the channel. I was interested in Star Wars figures in a whole. But obviously, when the vintage collection came back and I saw, you know, the quality was improving, then to me, the sort of pull for the Black Series ended pretty quickly, I've got to say. I always talk about the sort of soul of these figures, if you like, and to me, you know, Black Series figures, and this is nothing against the Black Series and people that collect them, but for me personally, when I look at a Black Series figure, hold a Black Series figure, I think it looks brilliant. When they get revealed, I get really jealous, but when I have one in my hand for a certain amount of time, I don't know, it just lacks the soul of a 3.75 inch figure for me, and I lose interest pretty damn quick. Dean Lee 1138 says, hi Boss, question for next week: with almost 400 TVC figures spanning across so much media, what is your favorite figure? Mine's Obi-Wan Jedi Legend. I know there's a fair bit of reuse, but it just has everything for me. Cheers. Yeah, and there is the Jedi Legend Obi-Wan. It is a great figure, it really is. It's not my favorite. The one standing behind it is my personal favorite, and that's a lot to do with the nostalgia as well, because the Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight was one of the first figures that I actually bought myself in a shop with my pocket money on the way back from watching Return of the Jedi. I absolutely loved that figure as a kid, and I feel that the vintage collection release of it just matches it perfectly. You've even got the brown robe, it fits perfectly, it's really good soft goods, and even though it's not necessarily like the best figure in terms of articulation, it doesn't have barbell hips, all that kind of thing, you know, when I just think of the vintage collection, that one just always springs to mind, both card back and and figure for me. But of course, there have been, you know, technically better figures released since. If you think of like something like Kanan Jarrus, for example, especially the one from the Ghost HasLab. What a brilliant figure that is. But you know, I always have to go back to Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight for all of those reasons I've just mentioned. GA says, hey BB, I absolutely love the Hasbro's May the 4th reveals on Friday. A few follow-up questions for next week's. 1, Stormtrooper 3-pack, will we get these on individual cards? 2, Stormtrooper repack, shouldn't this be VC375 to maintain consistent numbering, just like recent releases of Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba? 3, the Vintage Collection colours, Cantina 4-pack was stunning. Will we get a 4-pack of Cantina aliens in the style of the Tessek Reis, Velkin, Tame pack? I mean, something like Aliel, Feltipern, Cabe, Mayo. Thanks for all you do, my man. So let's take those one by one. Stormtroopers 3-pack, will we get these on individual cards? So history tells us that those 3 packs, we generally do get those figures outside of those packs. When we look at the Jedi Knight figure with the X-Wing pilot Luke and the Stormtrooper Luke, that we got all of those figures carded. And there are other examples as well. Some of them don't make it, like if you think about the 2 droids that came with the Dr. Aphra set, for example. But in general, they've either been released before or after that 3-pack comes out. So hopefully we'll get the Sand Trooper on a card, and hopefully we'll also get that Snowtrooper Commander as well. In terms of the Stormtrooper repack, should it be VC331A? I think that Steve Evans put something out recently on his social media about how they go about numbering these. And I think if the figure hasn't had any changes whatsoever and it's just a straight repack, then it just keeps the numbering. I think with Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba, they had some paint upgrades, some photoreal, that kind of things. So they get the A designation. The Stormtrooper is just a straight repack from VC231, no differences whatsoever. So that keeps the VC231. That's my understanding of it anyway. And in terms of your third question, will we get a 4-pack of Cantina aliens? I've got to say at this moment in time, it's looking increasingly unlikely. I really hope we do. Obviously, we need some more aliens for our HasLabs, but at this moment in time, nothing to report on that. Steve Martin says, hi BB, love the channel. I watch it every week. Highlight of my Sundays. Question for next week, with the 10th anniversary of The Force Awakens, do you think we will get any reveals for episode 7? Keep up the great work, mate. I have to say, I very much doubt it, and it's probably 0 chance. I don't think even the Black Series are respecting that particular anniversary, and they are respecting the anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, which also the Vintage Collection isn't. So in terms of The Force Awakens, there's probably 0 chance. Logan Productions says, question for next week, with the Black Series reveal of the Ronin, do you think other Vision characters like Kara and Duro from the Ninth Jedi and F from the Village Bride will eventually get figures, either Black Series or TVC? Personally hoping for the latter. Thank you so much for your hard work. So I really did like that Ronin figure, that 2-pack. It was beautifully presented, and it's kind of like perfect for the Black Series, right? They, you know, the Black Series is like a character line. Hasbro themselves have sort of described it as that. Vintage Collection is the world building line. So if they were to release something like that in the Vintage Collection, then obviously they'd have to do supporting characters, and I just can't see that happening. I feel that that 2-pack was kind of like the perfect thing for the Black Series, even though I do love that Ronin character and I would like him as like a standalone figure in the Vintage Collection. I just feel it suits the Black Series a little bit more personally, and whether they release more Visions characters, I'm not too sure. Even in the Black Series, I just feel that that might be like a one-off. And to be honest, I feel that that episode of Visions was by far the best in my opinion. It was brilliant, in fact. I really did enjoy it, and that's probably why I want the Ronin figure, to be honest. This is No Case Says, question next week. The topic of reuse seems to be something a lot on TVC collectors' minds, and Hasbro's been more open about how reuse of parts and tooling plays into their planning for the line. And it's really no stranger to Star Wars, going back to the Kenner days and then into the modern era, especially in the vehicle segment of the line. A look back from 1995 onward would show that Hasbro reused almost all of the existing Kenner vehicle tooling, wound up resurfacing at some point. Gradually, Hasbro improved on a lot of these, or completely redesigned most vehicles from the ground up. But 3 vehicles whose tooling dates back to the Kenner days have not received the complete redesign treatment: the A-Wing, B-Wing and Y-Wing, even though the B-Wing and Y-Wing are spruced up for TVC releases. If you could pick one of these 3 vehicles for Hasbro to completely redesign, which would it be? And on a similar note, what vehicle from the modern era 1995 to the present do you think would be suitable to carry forward into the vintage collection? So second part of that question, I don't think any of them deserve to be carried forward. I truly believe that anything that gets made in the vintage collection now should be all new, just like the speeder bike, just like the land speeder, and whatever other vehicles that they want to do, they should be vintage collection quality. And that's kind of that basically. As for those 3 that you've mentioned, I think I'd pick the A-Wing purely from a price point of view. I think it'd be more accessible than the other 2, and also I feel that there's more versions of it that they could do. I think there's one in Rebels, there's one in the sequel trilogy, and of course you've got the original trilogy one as well. So, you know, there's plenty that they could do with the A-Wing, and I know that the A-Wing that we've got isn't necessarily that bad, but it could definitely do with an update. Aquilish Doug says, hi Tim, Hasbro seems to be leaning heavily into multi-packs this year, using minor retooling, repainting, and maybe an occasional all-new figure, e.g. Joris, to get the maximum value out of sculpts. A few questions for next week's. Do you prefer the carded multi-packs or the special action figure style? And do you foresee more of these sets this year? 3, what would your most wanted multi-pack be if only minor retooling, repainting was possible? Cheers. So first question, do I prefer the carded multi-packs or the special action figure style? In truth, I like them both. They both hark back to the original Kenner days. I like the presentation of both, but if I was pressed to choose one, it would probably be the carded version, purely because it's desirable to both sets of fans. If you're a carded collector, you get some awesome unpunched cards, and if you're a loose collector, you can open them up. And then if you collect both, obviously you've got to buy 2 sets. That's the downside, I guess. Do I foresee more of these sets this year? Plural, maybe not. 1, possibly. Yes, I do. What would your most wanted multi-pack be? I'd probably go with something like a carded 4-pack of Clone Commanders. Something like that. Revenge of the Sith Clone Commanders. Easy retool across the 4, repaints, whatever. I think it's a no-brainer. They should do that. Reno AZ says, great video, BB. Question for next week. What is your best guess on which figure will be VC375? Also, we need a room tour of your collection. Yep. I know, it's planned, I've got to do it soon, I really do, and I promise I will. I know I keep saying that, but I promise I really will. VC375, this is an interesting one, isn't it? Because they keep bringing it up in their live streams, and, you know, we're saving it for something special, all this kind of thing. And for me, that means possibly 2 outcomes, right? We've got the outcome where it could be a figure from non-universe, where it's like, you know, a George Lucas stormtrooper, or even a George Lucas in his checkered shirt, something like that, something really random, you know, that's Star Wars related but not necessarily linked to the films. Or it could be one of the characters that kind of like started it all, right? Now they've missed the opportunity with Luke, Leia, Ben and Vader. I feel the only one left really that could, you know, qualify for VC375 is C3PO, and an all new C3PO on that Star Wars C3PO card. If they gave that the VC375 number, I would not complain at all. I think that's quite fitting. Other people might think it needs to be something even more special, but C3PO, VC375, I think that fits quite nicely. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, what you feel VC375 should be. All right then, guys, that's it for this week's episode. Just a reminder about the giveaway that I mentioned earlier in the video. I have partnered with Whatnot, and there is a link in the description below and in the pinned comments where you could be in with a chance to win all of this in front of you here. One lucky winner will win all of this here anywhere in the world. All you need to do is post your Whatnot username in the comments section of this video, and maybe ask a question at the same time as well. As I mentioned, if you sign up, you will be greeted with £10 off your first purchase, or $15 if you're in the US, which will enable you to buy something on the platform, whether you choose to use it on something quite small or put that towards something a bit bigger and getting a bargain. But be sure to check that out. Links in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members as always for your support. It means a great deal, so thank you so much. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.